Hundreds were on hand here at the Smith Center in downtown Las Vegas to remember the late Senator Harry Reid, all of them wanting to share memories, their admiration, and to say goodbye.
You can tell by the turnout that you're going to see with the elected officials and dignitaries that are going to be here how popular the senator was and how much he meant to so many people.
Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak among the many Democratic leaders on hand to honor the late Harry Reid, who lost his battle with pancreatic cancer last week at the age of 82. Representative Susie Lee says Reid's legacy will include his work for Nevadans.
I think that, first of all, Senator Reid put Nevada on the map in terms of being a political powerhouse when it comes to national politics.
Harry Reid came into this world with the odds against him.
President Joe Biden sharing his thoughts on Reid's rise from humble beginnings in Searchlight, Nevada, to become a member of the House and eventually 5 terms in the Senate and the Democratic Party's leader.
That's how we literally saved, we forget it, Social Security during the Bush years. Stopped Yucca Mountain from becoming a nuclear waste site. Secured the votes for the Affordable Care Act. It's how he helped us rein in Wall Street, the excesses, and repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
As Reid's wife, Landra, and their children listened, the senator was also remembered by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, current Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer, and by former President Barack Obama, who recalled Reid's love for boxing.
You know, Barack, I wasn't a great athlete. I wasn't big and strong like some of the guys I went up against. But I had 2 things going for me. I could take a punch, and I never gave up.
And for his habit of not saying goodbye at the end of a phone call, but instead just hanging up.
One former colleague explained it by saying to Harry, goodbye was an unnecessary word. It might not have been necessary for Harry, but it is for us. Goodbye, Harry. Thank you for everything.
Senator Reid's casket will now be taken to Washington, D.C., where it will lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. That will happen January 12th. Reid will be laid to rest in Searchlight.
I always enjoyed spending time with my dad. When I was 8 years old, I was really jealous of my older brother, Leaf, that he got to go into work with my dad in his law office and be a runner in his office during the summer. I was told I couldn't go because I wasn't old enough to run around downtown Las Vegas by myself. I was not satisfied with that answer, and I wasn't going to stand for that type of injustice. So one morning, I decided to hide in the back of our family station wagon that my dad took to work. This was not a well thought out plan. First problem with my plan is when I got into the station wagon, I was wearing pajamas. Second problem was, it turns out my dad wasn't going to his office that morning, he was going to the courthouse. And so as my dad was driving to the office, he said that he felt the sense that somebody was in the car with him. And this was the time when my dad was chairman of the Nevada Gaming Commission, and there were some rough people about in Las Vegas. And so then he saw some hair sticking up over the back seat of the station wagon. And according to him, he thought about what kind of evasive action he needed to take. He was worried until he recognized the head of hair. And I know it's hard for you to imagine right now, but when I was 8 years old, I had a nice, thick, curly mane of blonde hair. So once I heard my dad yell, "Josh," I knew the jig was up. And since my dad had to get to the hearing, my punishment was to stay outside the courthouse in my pajamas with one of the court bailiffs and wait for my sister to pick me up. In spite of that failed stowaway attempt when I was 8, one certainty that I've had throughout my entire life is that my dad loved me unconditionally. I know this because he told me this, just like my other siblings. He'd tell me through phone calls, he'd write me letters, and notes that I keep in my law office today and that I read and reflect on when times get tough or stressful. And I'm very appreciative that the love that my dad showed me throughout my life. Now, I realize it might be a little bit out of the ordinary to read from the congressional record at a funeral, but I want to read some of the words that my dad said on the Senate floor on March 30th, 2004. He said, "I wish the people I work with in the Senate knew my father. My father was named Harry Reid, the same name I have. I always looked up to my dad. My dad was My dad was uneducated, didn't graduate from the 8th grade, but he's very smart. For example, he was a miner and could go underground with a compass. Come above ground and create a map. People in college cannot do that. He was a carpenter, he was a blacksmith, and he was a much bigger man than I am. I always admired his physical strength. The reason I mentioned Harry Reid, my father, is last night my 15th grandchild was born, a little boy. I mentioned my father because my son Josh told me this morning that they've named my grandson after me. So I have a little grandson named Harry Reid. I hope as the years go by, that little boy will look at his grandfather in the same way I looked at my dad. I'm proud of the name Harry Reid. I even signed my H like my dad did. I hope I can set an example that my grandson will respect and admire. I hope my grandson will have an example set by me that is one he will believe in, family and keeping families together, and being a young man who conducts himself in a proper manner, and that hopefully some of the things I have done and will do will be something he will look to as a role model that maybe he will adhere to. So I want the record to reflect how much I appreciate this great honor to have someone who, through all generations of time, will be the third Harry Reid. I wanted to read the statement to you because I believe it sums up how my dad saw his role as a father and a grandfather. I'm eternally grateful for the example that he set for me and for my children. My dad would tell me how much he loved me, and he would often tell me when I had my own kids that you can never tell your family that you love them too much. And I appreciate that, what he taught me. I'm appreciative for the positive example and impact that he's had in the lives of me and my children. Dad was so proud of my son Liam, who followed him in his footsteps by attending Utah State, and where he refereed soccer games right across at the high school right across the street from where my mom and dad lived in Logan, Utah. My dad used to love calling Liam and hearing his tales of bravery as a soccer referee dealing with unruly soccer parents. And my son Harry, who Dad spoke about on the Senate floor 18 years ago, is now a senior in high school, theater student at Las Vegas Academy of the Arts, just down the street from here. After my son Harry told my dad that he wanted to pursue acting, my dad wrote to him and told him that it's better to take risks in trying to pursue what you want in life than to settle for a life without meaning. Just like he did with me, my dad always made sure that Liam and Harry knew that he loved them and that he was proud of them. And that couldn't be proven anymore by my dad's last words to my son Harry on the day before he passed away. And as my brother mentioned, my dad wasn't speaking a lot this day. But my son Harry had been sitting at his grandfather's side, and when he was leaving, he went and held his hand and told his grandfather that he loved him. And my dad immediately responded, "I love you even more." I said this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Well, outside a very different scene, outside the Smith Center, protesters against President Biden gathered nearby the memorial service today. About a dozen demonstrators seen near Symphony Park Avenue, even crossing over media staging. They waved flags and signs supporting former President Trump, including claims that he won the 2020 election.
Hi, everybody. I'm Reed Cowan from News 3 Las Vegas. We want to thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Remember, you can always see more of our videos by clicking on the video links. And also don't forget to click that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our YouTube updates.